What's up guys, Nick with Atropos. Today we're hiking Mount Timpanogous.
At the end of July, I flew out to Salt Lake City to hike Mount Timpanogous.
Stopped off at the gas station, little Kit Kat for some sugar pre-trail run. It's already 90 degrees, it's gonna be hot as shit. So hopefully it's just around 85 when I get to the trailhead and we'll see what's up.
From the Salt Lake City airport, I jumped on the Green Line tram down to the ballpark station where I picked up my Turo rent-a-car. From there, it was about an hour drive out to the trailhead. I reached out to my friend Chris who lives in Salt Lake and he recommended taking the Mount Timpanogous trail as opposed to the Aspen Grove trail as there's more wildflowers on this route. I filled up my vest and got ready to make the 8.5 mile trek up to the summit with a stop off at Emerald Lake. This was going to include 4,500 feet of climbing.
I just made it to the trailhead. It's 11:45 a.m. and we're gonna get this started.
When I was doing my research on this hike, it seems like everyone starts this very early, anywhere from 2 to 5 a.m. in the morning. I was hoping it wasn't going to be too hot as it was 97 degrees in Salt Lake.
Definitely zigged when I should have zagged. I'm coming up the waterfall.
A mile and a half in, I reached Scout Falls.
So epic.
I was tempted to cool off under the waterfall, but I decided to wait until I made my way up to Emerald Lake.
So the first mile and a half, there's a lot of shade, so that's nice. And there's a nice breeze today. Otherwise it'd be very, very hot.
After exploring Scout Falls, I jump back on the trail as it proceeds through a meadow that really opens up as you make your way above 8,500 feet.
It's like I'm walking through 2 miles in. There's a nice meadow that's pretty flat and runnable, and then you start climbing up the right-hand side here.
Over 2.5 miles in, the single track trail becomes pretty exposed, and even though it was hot, I was lucky there was a consistent breeze as I made my way up to the first boulder field. Once you make it past the boulder field, you start the climb to get you above 10,000 feet.
3 miles in, unreal. So pretty. Everywhere you turn.
After crossing the boulder field, I was happy to be back on the solid single track trail and decided to trail run the next section up to the main meadow. This section of the hike has a lot of sneaky elevation gain, but it's also one of my favorite parts of the whole hike. After passing the next exposed boulder field, I made some new trail friends. At the junction, I took the gut shot single track trail to Emerald Lake.
5 miles into the lower cutoff to Emerald Lake. I'm gonna take that to add on a mile each way. I'm gonna jump in the lake, it's gonna be really nice.
This meadow is super scenic and it's really awesome to see all the wildflowers and the summit in front of you.
Unreal.
I ran through the meadow and got to the base of the climb up to Emerald Lake. The very last section of this boulder field is kind of sketchy and does involve some scrambling as you make your way down to Emerald Lake. It was cool to see the iconic shelter, and I also got lucky and ran into a bunch of mountain goats and rams. The approach on the island and the massive peaks in the background really make this alpine lake incredible. I didn't waste any time jumping in and cooling off. The water was very cold but very refreshing.
Whew. Feels nice to cool off.
Pro tip, I always bring a pair of cheap water socks on any kind of adventure to protect my feet as I get in and out of the lakes. Also, I always bring a small microfiber towel to dry my feet off before putting my socks back on. I jumped back on the trail and made the long switchback through some snowy sections up towards the saddle. I'm still amazed with how much wildlife I saw on this trail.
7 miles in, coming up to the saddle. It got really steep coming up that last section, but the views are incredible.
Although this section isn't technical, the switchback is very steep and very long. I was getting excited to reach the saddle as you could see the peak in the distance. The views from the saddle are impressive as you look back at Utah Lake to your west and Deer Creek to the east. The trail becomes very exposed as you go on the backside and the wind definitely picks up.
All right, here we go.
The first section of the backside trail is pretty well defined, but I'd absolutely recommend having a downloaded map as there's lots of sections where you can get off trail. At this point, I was above 11,000 feet when I approached the first major rock wall that you have to scramble up and around. This was definitely one of my favorite parts of the adventure. After climbing the rock wall, I was surprised to see even more mountain goats. The final push to the summit is very steep and very rocky, so make sure to go at your own pace. I was happy to see the shelter get closer and closer as we made our way to the summit. It took me 4.5 hours to cover the 8.5 miles and over 4,600 feet of elevation gain to the summit. The shelter was super cool and it was a great spot to get out of the sun and relax for a little bit.
Yeah, 11.753, let's go.
Timpanogous.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool.
I signed the summit log, which appropriately was the Book of Mormon, enjoyed some snacks, and then we decided to make the trek back down to the saddle.
Tell me lies, I'll play along. Hold me till the feeling's gone. Pretend you're mine, don't say a word. Let me feel what we once were.
The views from the peak are truly stunning, and I absolutely recommend this hike if you're in the Salt Lake area. As we made our way back down the rock wall, it was a lot easier to stay on trail as you could see it in front of you.
So insane coming back down now.
And of course, more mountain goats.
Coming back down the saddle, the wind really picks up once you get here to the peak, but incredible views.
After reaching the saddle, I parted ways with Corey and Jeff as they were going to the other trailhead. I took the summit trail down, which was awesome to run through all the wildflowers.
It's ridiculously beautiful. It's kind of what I thought it would be, but until you're here, it's stunning.
I said goodbye to my trail friends and completed the 17-mile adventure in 7 hours. Always have fun, be safe, and make sure to leave no trace.